My hair's a little bit too long. I got the haircut. Hi folks, Harry here, and today's video I'm just going to be basically gushing over books. Since I've become an avid reader, I have read close to maybe 300 books. And among those 300, I have loved many of them. So to make a list like my top 5 favourite books of all time is very, very difficult, but I think I've compiled a list. So today I will be talking about my top 5 favourite books of all time. For anyone who doesn't really know what my reading taste is, I generally favour adult literature, often classic literature, and my favourite genres are horror and magical realism. And I'm sure that just by looking at my bookshelves you can kind of see that reflected. So I'm just going to crack on with it, and I'm going to talk about my top 5 favourite books of all time. Okay, my number 5 favourite book of all time is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Rebecca was first published in 1938, and it follows an unnamed narrator who falls in love with a rich man named Maxim de Winters. The two of them get married, but Maxim is still haunted by one thing: the death of his ex-wife Rebecca. I read this book for the first time a few months ago, so it's definitely a recent read for me. And it actually took me quite a while to get into it. And then, around halfway through, something clicked, and I knew that this was the book for me. This novel is like a gothic mystery thriller, and it is incredible. One thing I found about this book is that the pacing is really, really slow, so it's definitely a slow burner, but oh my god, it is worth it. Even though I found it really, really slow, and the plot didn't really progress very quickly, I adored Daphne du Maurier's writing style. Daphne du Maurier wrote like no other. Her writing is just so marvellous and majestic and beautiful. There's not much that I can really say about this book without spoiling it. It's the kind of novel that you should just jump into without really knowing much. I really, really want to do a full book review on this just because it is such a wonderful novel. There is so much to unpack, and it's really, really difficult to talk about without going into spoiler territory. I'm desperately trying not to go into spoiler territory, but the atmosphere is so chilling. This book feels really cold when you read it. It's just got that cold feeling. Also, it's a gothic novel, so it's not necessarily creepy, it's just so unnerving and chilling. And my favourite character in this book is Rebecca, but from page 1, she's dead. But somehow, she dominates every single scene. And even from the grave, she is continuing to affect the events in this book. I've never seen anything this smart in a book before, and it is wonderful. Daphne du Maurier's writing is remarkable, this story is amazing, Rebecca is one of the best novels I have ever read. The lighting's a bit dodgy, I'm going to try and sort it out. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, moving on to my next favourite book. My 4th favourite book of all time is 1984 by George Orwell. Oh my god, talk about a masterpiece. 1984 was published in 1949, and it is George Orwell's idea of what the year 1984 could look like from the perspective of someone 40 years prior. In my opinion, this is the best dystopian novel ever written, and for so many reasons. I can't believe that George Orwell published this in 1949, and this work of fiction somehow manages to reflect the very world that we live in today with astonishing accuracy. Obviously the themes in this book are a little bit more heavy, but it's definitely the right idea. This novel has so many themes of things like government censorship and not being able to have your own thoughts, and having every single movement that you make be watched and judged and analysed and criticised. This story is just so unbelievably bleak and ultimately very chilling because of how accurate it is to today's modern world. This book is a mind-blowing commentary on the fact that every single move we make in today's modern world is being watched, and how our devices are watching us and listening to us, and how the government may be finding secret ways to spy on us. It's just so entertaining to read, and it is so shocking to think that someone in 1949 expected our modern world to become like this work of fiction. Also, this book has influenced pop culture so much, like Big Brother, that has come from this book. Also, terms like the thought police came from this book. This novel has affected the way that humans will think for centuries to come, and it is just insane to me. I cannot even put into words how impressed I was when I read this, and just how scarily accurate George Orwell was with his depictions. I just absolutely love this novel. It is truly a masterpiece. It is a work of art. 1984 is definitely my favourite, what I would consider a modern classic. It is the one book that I would recommend to people trying to get into classics, because it's really, really accessible actually. It's a very accessible writing style. And it is just marvellous. Okay, number 3, you will definitely know that this is coming if you've watched my videos before. And it is Misery by Stephen King. This is so reflective, oh my god. How's that one? Is that too reflective? A little bit. That's reflective too. Okay, that's good. Misery was the 3rd Stephen King novel I ever read. And as soon as I turned the first page, I immediately fell in love with it. Misery was published in 1987, and it follows a writer named Paul Sheldon who is the author of a very popular romance series. While driving through the snowy mountains, Paul gets in a very, very bad car crash, and he's rescued by a seemingly very kind woman. This woman, Annie Wilkes, turns out to be his #1 fan. Annie takes Paul into her care, and she finds the manuscript of his most recent novel. But when she reads the manuscript, she is not happy about it, and Paul Sheldon has to face the consequences. Wow, this... I don't have words to describe my immense love for this book. Annie Wilkes is one of my favourite antagonists of any Stephen King novel. She is just an astounding character. This book perfectly demonstrates that Stephen King is the master of his craft. It is done so well, and if any other writer tried to tackle this story, they probably would not execute it anywhere near as well. The vast majority of this novel takes place in one room, a bedroom, and it only has 2 central characters. The fact that King was able to create such a suspenseful novel out of 1 setting and 2 characters is just so incredible and such an amazing demonstration of talent that I haven't seen in any other novel. Kind of similar to Rebecca, this is the kind of novel that feels cold. Obviously that's helped by the fact that it's set in the winter period, but this novel just feels so chilling. And this is horror at its finest. This book is thrilling, it's scary, it's gruesome, it's suspenseful, it's everything that you could want from a horror novel. It's also incredibly short. It's between 300 and 400 pages, so you can fly through it really, really quickly, and it is so fast-paced. If you haven't read Misery, do it right now, because this book, again, I don't have words to describe my love for this book. I don't think that this book is perfect by any means, but oh my god, it's close to it. Misery by Stephen King. Enough said. Okay, my second favourite book of all time. It's another Stephen King one. This is my favourite Stephen King book of all time, and that is Firestarter. Firestarter was published in 1980, and it follows a little girl called Charlie McGee who has pyrokinesis, which is the power to create fires with your mind. And she is being tracked down by a government organisation who are more than interested in her abilities. But their intentions are not correct. Charlie and her father Andy, who also has the ability to control minds, are running away from this government agency. I like to describe it as a classic chase story mixed with Stranger Things. Remember when I said that I don't think that Misery is a perfect novel? I can't say the same about Firestarter. A lot of people do manage to find flaws with this novel, but honestly, if you ask me right now about one thing that I don't like about this book, or one thing that I think could be improved in this book, I couldn't tell you. I think this is one of the best paced Stephen King books. It's just over 500 pages, and I read the last 400 pages in one sitting. I could not stop turning the pages. I could not stop until I finished the novel. I wouldn't necessarily consider this book horror. I would say it's definitely more of a sci-fi thriller, and as a sci-fi thriller, it works, and it ticks every box. A story like Firestarter can appeal to so many people. The protagonist basically has superpowers, so if anyone likes things like Stranger Things, or any kind of superhero stuff, or any kind of sci-fi like that, Firestarter will definitely appeal to them. For fans of Stephen King, Firestarter ticks every box too. It's thrilling, it's exciting, it's suspenseful, and come on, the main character is a little girl who can start fires with her mind. That is badass, that is awesome. This is the best Stephen King book I have read. I've read every single Stephen King novel except one, that's Black House, I just haven't got around to it yet, and this is by far my favourite. Nothing even competes with it. Misery gets close, but at least I can fault Misery. Firestarter just ticks every box for me. It's wonderful. I think it's perfect. Not everyone will, but I do think that this is a masterpiece. I think this is a perfect demonstration of Stephen King's incredible talent, And I don't think I will ever read a thriller quite like this, ever. Until the day that I die, I will keep returning to Firestarter, and I will keep spreading the word about how good this book is. Just go read it and then thank me later. Okay, we're finally here. My favourite book of all time. Comment down below if you know my reading tastes, what you think this book is. I'm not sure how many of you will know, but see if you can guess. Okay, my favourite book of all time is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. So many things come to mind when I think about Kafka on the Shore. And I don't know if in this video I can compile words together well enough to convey my feelings towards Kafka on the Shore. Because I didn't love everything about this book, but for some reason it enticed me so much, it drew me in. I read about 500 pages of this in one day. It's a little bit over 600 pages. And I could not stop reading it. I couldn't put it down. I have never had more fun reading a book in my entire life. This novel was first published in Japan as Umibe no Kafka in 2002, and it was published in English for the first time in 2005. This novel has two perspectives. The first is Kafka Tamura. He is a 15-year-old boy and he has just run away from home. The other perspective is from an old man named Nakata. Nakata has the ability to talk to cats, and since a strange event in his childhood, he's never quite been the same. And though the two protagonists never meet at any point in the novel, they both affect each other's lives drastically, and it is really, really entertaining to see the way that their lives intertwine in ways that they don't even realise. From that description, you might think this book sounds absolutely bizarre, and it is. And it is wonderful. This is easily, by far, the weirdest book I've ever read. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the weirdest, most bizarre, most wacky book that I have ever read in my entire life. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. To me, this is what magical realism is. It's the real world, but with such strange, wacky aspects that just make it seem a little bit different to our world. Like, Nakata can talk to cats. Who in this world, except the master that is Haruki Murakami, could think of this concept and execute it as well as he did in Kafka on the Shore? I can't think of anyone else. I've just got to reiterate, this book is so weird. It's so weird. It's really confusing, it's trippy, but it's also simultaneously very easy to follow. The feeling of reading a Murakami book is like being pleasantly confused. You have no idea what on earth is going on, but you're still really, really enjoying it as it is. Sometimes the weird parts of this book do enter problematic territory, but I don't think the problematic aspects of a book should stop us from loving it. As long as we can recognise as readers that these things are problematic, that's all we need. Something that Murakami absolutely masters, especially in this book, is verisimilitude, which is basically when something has the appearance of being as true and honest as possible. So Murakami doesn't shy away from giving you very obscure details about someone's everyday life that other authors wouldn't necessarily include, but when Murakami does it, it makes you feel so unbelievably connected to his characters and you understand them so well. So while this novel definitely isn't perfect, and I can definitely find many faults with it, I have never enjoyed a book more than Kafka on the Shore. And I don't think I will ever come across a book that has enticed me more than this one. After I finished reading this book, it felt so strange because this book really sucked me in and I could not escape from it. I still haven't escaped from it. I still think about this book every single day and I probably will continue to for the rest of my life. Okay, these are my top 5 favourite books of all time. I would recommend every single one of these books with extreme confidence. Each one has impacted me so much. I have enjoyed each one thoroughly, and to me, these 5 books are the best books that I have ever read. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big fat thumbs up. If you have read any of these novels, please let me know in the comments down below. And also in the comments, I want you to let me know what your top 5 favourite books are, or just your favourite book and why. I'd really love to know. If you are a book lover like I am, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on post notifications so you get notified every single time I upload a new video. All of my social media links, so that's my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Letterboxd, TikTok, all of that is in the description down below. And I will see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.